welcome to Floyd Models Kit Review time. Today we've got Hobby Boss's brand new tooled release of the 1/48 scale SU Flanker B. Now, till now, really, we've had Academy. Not the greatest kit, to be honest. It's quite plain and it's got plenty of little issues, not to mention a few sort of misshapes and things like that. So we're hoping great things from Hobby Boss, who seem to be bringing out a very nice collection of Russian hardware recently. So, down on the box, we got some great artwork on the front, as you can see, just down there, and we'll just have a quick run round. So, usual thing, it's a flanker at the end of the day, so we got some R73Es and 27s for the longer range missiles. A little bit of blurb about the flanker. Kit number for this is 81711, and on the other side we got there, so we can see you get a little bit of photo etch, some nice markings down in the box. So, in the box itself, which, if I can get even into it, gonna fight me. There we go. Okay. Right, okay, so right off the bat looking at it, it's the first time I've seen in here, it's the Academy one. No, it's not. It's not Academies, but Academy do exactly the same thing of trying to keep the fuselage as flat as possible by having it down in the box. That explains why the box wouldn't open. Okay, so we've got that bolted down. Actually, it's not even just an inlay, it is properly down in there. Okay, so we'll have a look at that in a moment. Then we've got some bits and screws all lying down below. So if we start off with the blurby bits, usual thing, got the pamphlet on what's coming out, what is out. Okay, there, and we're going to pull that and get that out. Now in here, as we can see, you can probably bring that camera in just a little bit closer. There we go. So as you can see, usual thing, starting off with the cockpit right the way through. The tub doesn't look too bad at all. Multi-peak part seat, decals for the instrument panels, and then some side bits going down in there as well. It's quite nice. Nose wheel going in there with that sort of FOD deflector going in. The lights, main gear as well, nice and early in the build. Putting those together. Different way of doing it with the castle system on the top. Then we got that big old fuselage right on the top. Usual thing, just like all the Academy ones, and pretty much any sort of, you know, this design. Cockpit goes in underneath, plugging that in, as you can see down there. We've got some mid-length nozzles. Basically got the afterburner ring and the nozzle system going up into that. The wheel wells fitted down, and then I assume you're going to sandwich both things together. Looks like we have got to put in the nose wheel early, just because of the way it fits in. Might be able to do something with it a little bit later on. Okay, and it looks like the wheel wells are all pre-molded in there as well. Okay, then into the top we've got the HUD system being put on there right the way through, and then it is attaching top to bottom. Looks like we've got posable flaps, which is quite nice. So sort of the flank has that flapper on system, and we've got leading edge slats, movable or posable rudders in the vertical stabilizers as well, which is quite nice. And we've got the gun barrel being fitted in, and then two types of nozzle, again open and close, another little nice touch for the kit. There's all important grills that shut out all that horrible stuff that can get sucked in your engine when you're down on the ground, goes in. And then obviously we've got the sensors, we've got the undercarriage port and the actual fan blades for the first stage compressor going in. So we don't get full engines or any engine detail at all. It's just going to be start and back. Usual thing with the flankers, we've got that leading nozzle going in. Sometimes can be trouble with this particular seam, so take a little bit of care down in there with that one. And then the underside parts going in there, the doors being fitted. Okay. And then we've got the nose going on, be interested to see what the nose is like. Okay, and then we've got the mid part with the pirate sight on the front that had the IST infrared tracking system going down in there. A couple of little photo etch mirrors, nice little touch, a little bit of detail down in there. Speed brake, obviously open and close depending which one you want to do it. All the angle of attack, pitot sensors, various things going on there. And then you got your weapons pylons going on there if you want the jammer pods on the wingtips, or you're going to have normal rails for missiles, is up to you. Then we got those little R73s, multi-parts as well, so it looks like we've got some nice detail on those. That'd be quite nice. And then the big R27s, so we've got the radar homing and the infrared homing versions of those as well, and you're set. It's always been the way. For some reason, flankers are just not complicated. Because they're big old lumps and you sort of slam them down together, they don't take much to go in there. So within 16 parts, including the weapons, it's all together. There we go. Okay, so colour call out, usual things like that. If you're like me and you've got a full range now of MRPs, you'll be laughing with this particular one. But you've got colour call outs, usual thing, Mr. Hobby, Vallejo, Model Master, Tamiya, Humbrol. Putting those in down in there, so it looks like you've got blue 10. Or you'll be have, oh, it's a different one. Never seen one in those markings before, so a different one. Must be black 14 in that case. So we got those as well. Nothing spectacular about the markings. Okay, got a little bit of colour on this one, which is obviously probably be most people's choice if you're doing it out of the box. Okay, so weapons, obviously we've got details there for the colour call-outs, the banding, the decal placements, for things like that going on there. Not many on this, I thought there was more, to be honest. But as I say, you have got the jammer pods, which is quite a nice touch on those. So, in the box, you have this. Crikey, I haven't done this because the kids have grown up. That's it, guys. How many parents spend their lives taking these things off at Christmas and birthdays? Okay. So, it's a nice touch. They are big and they are prone to warpage because the parts are so big. That's why they do this. You know, I imagine if you're sitting in a shipping container coming across the seas, they get very hot. You could get a warpage on a part like this. So we're just going to carefully whip them out the way. Let me get them out of the way. And this brings us into our fuselage, and I assume these will just slide off. And there we go. So that gives you an idea. The length of this thing, just off the bat, without the nose on, is 40 centimetres. So it is going to be big. It is going to be, what, 47 centimetres? So as I said, this is one of those aircraft. It's not small. It's a big old lump. Generally, just looking at it like this, it's very similar to the Academy one, the way it all goes together. You've got your normal sort of problem areas, which we'll look at in a minute. As I say, unusual to see the wheel wells moulded in like that in one. Normally they're an afterthought and you put in. But generally, if we start with the top and we work our way around, you can see not brilliant detail down on here on the cockpit area. I must admit, I thought, you know, might see a little bit more up here. Let's change my angle. You know, it's not too much going on in there for a 48th and a modern one. It seems to be quite softly moulded, the panel line, the engraving, all those details and things like that, as you can see on there. And if we just walk it slowly down the back, you can see it's okay. It's got some nice details, but I just thought it might be a little bit more, being a new tool like this and things like that. And even these identification friend or foe fences on the back here look very heavy. I would prefer to see that in photo etch and stuff like that. But generally, looking at it, isn't too bad at all. Sorry, I just need to drop that camera out just a little bit too close. So there we go. As you can see, from an overall very nice detail, it's all there, and the engine profile looks quite nice. We've got these little lumps and bumps on here, as it does have. No problem with that at all. We've got the usual thing. These spots here are ejection mold points. This is where the actual styrene gets injected in to the actual kit. It goes in through the top because this is a one-piece mold. It's not like it's coming in from the outsides. Okay, plenty of ejector pins on the inside, a little bit of strengthening work, various things in there. That's fair enough, no problem. Nice to see we've got these molded on just to protect the static discharges on the wingtips, so leave them on till last, otherwise you'll be breaking those off. Okay, so that's quite a nice top. Down here on the underside, as I said, it's standard. No matter which way they seem to do it, it seems to be this way. Big old port marks as well, so there the injections going in. Again, some of these little details, they just seem to be quite heavy in this scale, if we're honest. Don't look too good. Okay, but generally not too bad all over this one. Nice riveting detail. Catch it in the light underneath here. There we go, you can see it down in there. That's pretty good, all of that. Very nicely done. Can't see any problems with that at all. When you sandwich it together, the nice thing about it is we don't have much of a seam line at the front, if anything at all, so that's quite nice. That's good all the way around. This guy back here is always going to be a troublesome fit, no matter which way anybody ever does it. We've seen it where it sort of tapers together or it's flat. I think just get the styrene in there and sand it. But all the others actually don't look too bad at all. I think that's all going to be quite nice. It's always better to do this way, in my opinion. Trying to put wings on, it's a nightmare. We have got, although you'd have to check it, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it looks like, catching it here, we've got a slight sink mark on the wing. Okay, and I've got another one running down here. Catch it in the light, maybe you can see it. Mate, there you go. You see this very fine sink mark running down in here, and that is a sink mark. I can physically feel it, and we're assuming there's not. I thought there might be a thicker piece of plastic under here that's caused it, but that is a sink mark just down in there. A little bit unfortunate on that, but generally the rest of it I'm very happy. Very nice detail all of that. Surprised the cockpit, I'd like to see a little bit more detail in there, but generally I don't think it's too bad. Okay, so where should we start? I'll tell you what, let's get the big old screw out of the way. Okay, so down here in the back. Right, okay, again, a little bit different. I thought we would see the louver doors being as a separate fit so you can have them open or closed, but unfortunately they're in the closed position. So what's going to happen is this fence, you would have it down closed, so you're not going to see the first stage compressor and all the rest of it, which is unfortunate. The panel lining, you might see it running along here, is obviously part of a seam system from the injection moulding, and we have got a seam line running very faintly along here as well. You're going to have to take care of, okay, but that's because of the way it is. Generally though, the detail looks pretty good. We catch it down in the light, there you go, you can see all of that lovely detail, no problem with that at all. It's just, you can probably see it's very heavy, this seam line, which is a panel line, but they've turned it into a seam line as well to get around the problem, okay? But that's okay, a couple of swipes with a sanding stick, no problem with that at all. These other parts down the back here, as you can see, we've got the sides, the actual blades. You're not going to see them anyway if you can have the door shut, but there we go. All the other areas, no problem at all. Nice to see we've got a little bit of detail down here in these wheel wells for the actual doors, things like that. Yeah, I don't think it's too bad at all. We can live with that. Okay, as I say, that's all wet, so we'll have that out in a minute. So down in here we've got the tail planes and the flapperoni things. Okay, so the tail planes are two-piece as we saw, and again, just looking at them, we've got some very nice details in there, no problem at all. Static discharges on there, just be careful you don't break those off. And again, with the flaps, you can see down here, very nicely done, and the slats, we've got a nice level of detail on all of this, right the way through, and on the back one. So no problem with those. Wheel hubs look quite nice, no problem. Again, they're going to be horrible plastic, but in there. The insides of the doors, be nice to see a little bit of riveting down in there. They look quite plain, but say you could easily liven that up yourself. Nice tapering. I know it sounds silly, but if I catch it in the light, you can see, there we go. You get the taper, the way that this is flat right the way through. But again, when you're removing these, just be careful with it because you can make more damage than it's trying to save. What it's trying to stop you is actually making damage on the edge, but when you overdo it, you can end up with a gap. Quite nice. Okay. Right, okay, what we got down in here? Funny bags with this all over it. It's where to grab and go. Okay, so looks like we get two speed brakes. So we have two types of speed brakes on here. We have definitely the shorter version and the long one. Now I'm wondering if that is for another, that's simply say different type of flanker coming out. So yeah, didn't know that. I thought they were common, but it's definitely a wider end. The ventral fins down the bottom, exactly the same, two-part each side, fair enough. But generally you can see the cockpit detail isn't amazing, but I think it's quite adequate. You could get away with it if you wanted to go for an out off the sort of straight out of the box build. This little guy down here, which is the actual rings, nothing exciting. The nozzles again quite softly moulded, shall we say. It's just the detail. It'd be nice to see this a little bit crisper and sharper, but there is options out there. I'm sure the Aries ones would fit in this and anybody else's aftermarket sort of engines. The closed ones particularly don't look very nice, if we're honest. I'm not a great fan of that. A little bit of internal detail. Nice to see these are one part, so you don't have a great big seam running through the middle though. So that is a nice touch right the way through. The nice to see, if you catch it in the light, I catch it in the light, there we go. We've got a little bit of riveting detail, which is nice on the pitot tubes. And as I say, the nose one as well looks very nicely moulded for something that's straight out of the box. No problem. But again, no detail on the inside of the speed brakes, which is unfortunate. Okay, so into the smaller bags. There we go. So, sure it's not something. Not too bad at all down here. So we've got things like the nose wheel well down in here, looks pretty nice. Some nice riveting detail, various things going down in there as well, and these little ones down here, some nice details. The rest of it, as you can see right the way around, we've got the actual angle of attack sensors down in here, some of the little pitos and things like that. Very nicely done. Some very delicate small parts here. We've actually got this bit of framework down the side as well. That's a nice touch. right the way in. Real no sign of any ejector pins on anything that you would worry about, which is a very nice touch. So there's no ejector pins on any parts. They're all clear and definitely out of the way. Sprue gates, you know, the tabs actually onto it are quite thick. But these ones are a little bit thinner over here, which is quite a nice touch. They can do thin, as you can see, but some of these have got quite bigger ones on there. Not too bad at all. Then this is your seat. Okay, so down here we've actually got the ejector seat. Again, it's basic and crude. You could easily get an aftermarket one in here, which I would highly recommend. It's a big cockpit, especially if you're going to be having it open. No problem. But if you were doing sort of pilot figure in there, something else like that in flight, be perfectly usable with that, no problem at all. Okay, let's have a look at the tail fins. Okay, again, very nicely done. This level of detail is what I would probably say is spot on. Okay, so all this riveting detail to me seems to be about right and in scale. Now you say I'm no expert on these things, but from a modelling point of view, it looks right to me. It's not overdone that we've seen on some other kits, and it's not too faint that we're never going to see it later on. But you see, very nice level of detail right the way over there. Very nice moulding down here on the sensors on the rear and everything else. I have to say, great. But again, beautifully cleaned off. This is totally smooth in here, so it's ready for him to be sanded. Just remember, we've got a little bit of flash, as you can see on this guy here, just on the ejector pins. It's the only place it seems to have them. It's not on the parts. But again, I'm not a great fan of these tabs up here. I find you tend to make more damage than you're trying to save, but they are very nice indeed. Okay, so that's what we were talking about. Right, so we've got two of these. So we've got internals for the actual speed brake, as you can see just down on here, and as you can see also we have different types of instrument panels. So we've got SU-27, which will be this instrument panel here, and it looks like we've got SU-35s, and everybody else's a later one down here as well. So we can expect to see other versions of kits perhaps coming out, because we've got the three-way display and the old-fashioned normal flanker B type on that one. But again, nicely detailed, no problem with those at all. Say a little bit plain, but plain. Okay, so down here again we've got the nose gear door looking quite nice. The nose gear again all in one piece. So we've got the FOD deflectors on there. They look very nice done. Some nice riveting details, things like that on all of those, and just hubs in general look quite nice. No problem with any of that. Again, nice to see we don't get big ejector pin marks actually on the parts themselves. Okay, so rudders. Strange you get a bag for rudders. Well, there we go. So we've got joints or rudder set down here again. Catch them in the light. Nice riveting detail all over these. And then it's a matching pair. So we've got two of those. And nose cone. So the all-important nose. Now let's face it, Academy have got this wrong in the past, and I am no means an expert. I'm just trying to look at it in some type of profile and things like that. Doesn't look too bad to me. It doesn't droop on the here. There's a very fine center seam line running down it, but that's easily fixed. Nice nose. Very thin actually. It's a thinner mould than perhaps we've seen. No problem with that at all. Seems to be okay. Okay, we've got weapon pylons. And as I say, it's nice to see we get the jammer pods as well. So we've got a match pair probably here. So on this guy, we've actually got, as you can see, jammer pods each side. The pylons running right the way through. Again, nice level of detail. Or you can have this, which is the wingtip rails as well. We've got the lights on the outside of it. You can use that one. Very nice one-piece pylons. So quite heavy ejector pins, but it's nice because there's none on the parts, and that's what I like. So we've got two of those. Okay, what else have we got? We got a little thing of lights and various bits in here. Again, the plastic looks yellow to me right off the bat. I know it's not on camera, but I'm looking down on it and I'm holding it up to lights. Oh no, perhaps it is. Just look at the way I'm looking at it. So we got various lights, lumps, bumps for the weapons, the wheels, the heads-up displays, things like that down in there and like that. So that's actually very nicely done. Pop that in there. We've got a tiny little bit of photo etch, so we've got the mirrors, and optional because we've seen them in the kit and we've got them here as well. So you've actually got the actual angle of attack sensors. Rubber wheels. Never a fan of rubber wheels, but there's loads of aftermarket ones if you wanted to go down that route. And again, you can see here we've got big marks on them, dents in them. The tread pattern actually doesn't look so bad, but they are blanks. There's no writing or anything on there or a reason you might want to use them. They feel quite heavy, but it's nice to see there's no centre seam in them in either one. So that's quite a nice touch. If you were to, it's a high density thick rubber, so you could sand it as well. Okay, canopy. Don't let me down, Hobby Boss. I've never known you to do a rough one yet. Okay, so we have got a centre seam running down here, and if I'm honest, this is the first time I've seen warpage in this. Now I don't know if you can see it, but as I run it over the line, do you see how that's all rippling around? Now I know it's a complex shape, but normally they are very, very good, and that's the first time I've seen it where it's really out. The main one's not so bad. I'm more worried about the front one. The front one looks all over the place. I don't know if you can see it in there as well, but there seems to be lots of ripples and things going in there, which makes it all very difficult to see right the way through and everything else like that. But again, centre seam running right the way through the middle and down through the back, so you're going to have to take care of those as well, which is a little bit of a pain. Try and get that in there now, shall we? Probably not a good idea. Nope. Okay, so last up we've got the decals. How do I look at the decals? Again. So we've got the main decal sheet itself, as you can see down here. No problem with that at all. That looks really, really nice. Very much all in register. Can't see any problem. Actually, that's pretty good decal sheet. Actually like that. We do like this. We saw this on the 72nd one. If you catch it in the way, see the carrier film where it's not a whole big one. Now you could probably put the cross in there, but if you're a bit, you know, have trouble getting crosses in, but you can see how we got the carrier film just to put the cross in, so that way we don't have this huge, but hopefully you can see on it there's not giant carrier film all the way around it. It is very much just for the parts you need. Alright, so it hasn't got giant sheets of it. And then we've got weapons, stencil data, and I assume cockpit should be in here as well. So yeah, we've got obviously weapon ones at the top for the bars, and then we've got a little bit of stencil data for the pylons, things like that. And then we've got the one down here, which doesn't look brilliant, but as you say, I think you give it a little bit of time, the aftermarket guys will jump on this, and you can put in here a nice colour photo etch one, which I think would absolutely make it stunning. Okay, so that's those. Last up is the weapons, which I assume is Hobby Boss's usual bag, like Trumpeters do, of generic weapons for everything. It's like, I have more weapons for Russian aircraft than anything. Very nicely done. Actually, these are really nice. These are a little bit step up to what we've seen. Hopefully you can see there, we've got riveting detail over all the controls and everything else like that, but generally the missiles themselves look a little bit more fresher, a little bit better. Yeah, actually I do prefer these. These are really nice weapons. Even the details right down here on these smaller ones, these little 73s, they're fine. Very nice indeed. So there we go. I must admit, when I first saw this come out, I was really excited because I thought Hobby Boss would be, you know, stepping up the levels and we were going to end up with something really, really nice. Then obviously when I opened it up I thought, oh, it's just the same as the Academy one, but this one is definitely a step up. The surface detail is a lot crisper, a lot nicer and everything else like that. These weapons are absolutely beautiful. It's not going to be a easy kit to build. It looks it, 16 parts and all the rest of it, but this is going to be one of those things of making sure you've got all the edges fine. It's a big aircraft. That sink mark would be interesting to see that runs down this wing. Would be interesting to see if you can see it in through primer. You might get away with it, you don't even have to touch it. But as I said, just the cockpit just needs a little bit more, you know, we've spoken about before. I'd like to put in a colour photo etch set into that. Probably an aftermarket resin seat would really do the trick. And I think some resin wheels, and that way you're good to go with this kit. But generally, well done Hobby Boss, that's a really nice kit.